residential tech talk, lighting specialist, residential tech
All right, we are back on the Residential Tech Talks podcast and diving into a really unique space. I should start. Let me rewind by saying, you're lucky we're not doing this podcast in person because I'm pretty sure we'd have some greasy hands and, some Collegeville Italian bakery, those banging chicken cutlet sandwiches, man. Maybe we got to get them to sponsor this episode, Mr. David Chase.
Yeah, we should be shoving hoagies in our face as we
I know.
talk. Yeah, good stuff.
Couple of guys local to Philly jumping on a podcast via Zoom. So we could have done this in person. Maybe we will someday, but we'll spare you those the food and grease dripping for now. But no, I appreciate you.
This catches a leftover cheese.
Perfect. Whiz wit, is that your order?
No, I do. I'm from New England, and so I'm
okay.
kind of
Yeah.
I'm lean. Yeah, I'm a sort of an imposter when it comes to Philly cheesesteaks. I love them, but I do American cheese. I don't do the cheese.
That's all right. That's all right. Do you have a spot yet? Have you picked a spot here?
Collegeville.
Okay. Yeah, they're delicious, aren't they?
It's 5 minutes from my house, and shout out to Collegeville Bakery. They are, staggeringly good.
That is awesome. So appreciate you again, taking the time and jumping in with us. Founder of Cogent 360, a great company that I look forward to diving into some of the new things you have going on and some news we recently covered not too long ago on ResTech. So looking forward to that. But for those that don't know you, tell us about who you are, your background. I know you got a storied one in this space, so I'm looking forward to hearing you share it and get the story out there for our audience.
Absolutely. I am a home tech guy through and through. I started in the industry actually back in the mid 80s. Like 1986 was, the official start. So I'm coming up on 40 years. And spent a lot of time on the retail side. In fact, worked for many years with a company called Tweeter, which a lot of folks around the country may remember. They were a specialty audio video retailer. They really were a bit of a pioneer when it came to to CI. They were the first one to kind of go national with a home integration, customized program, and was with them for quite a while and spent the last 7 years or so that I was there as the director of product training here on the Mid-Atlantic region, and in that role saw countless vendor trainings, some of which were terrific, some of which were not so terrific, and so as the company was sliding downhill quickly, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna, I see the end is coming. I left in 2007 and started this company, which was originally called Training Allies. We changed the name several years ago, really with an eye towards helping companies get more traction and improve the quality and effectiveness of their product and sales training in the industry. We still do a lot of that. We do a lot of the online training in the industry. We work with a bunch of the big companies like Harman. We work with LG. We work with Lutron. We work with a whole bunch of different companies, helping them better educate their audience, from whether it's their sales channels, the dealers and retailers and so on, all the way down to the consumer.
Yeah.
And so it was several years ago that I started looking into virtual, the 3D capabilities and virtual environments, as a means to really make the content more engaging, because the folks out there will realize a lot of the training sessions that you see, whether it's online or webinar or whatever, tend to be pretty static. It's a lot of PowerPoint slides and things like that, which frankly, from a learning design standpoint, it's not optimal.
Right. There's some great stat out there about, like, for those like people that sit through PowerPoints, like, you're lucky if they remember something off of one slide. Is like or 5% of it, but it's terrible. But like, that's to your point. That's whether you're at a trade show or online. That's kind of the way education has been.
It's brutal. It's funny. I put this out there many years ago. What I saw was that what most companies pursue is what I call a manufacturing forward training process, meaning we put all this time and energy and money and expertise into building this product. So therefore, it's incumbent upon us to tell you everything. Let's just heap a ton of information on you, and we'll let you figure out how to basically boil that down into a 90-second pitch about a product when you're talking to a consumer, which is brutal. And so the best way to do it, we kind of reverse the process. I call it floor backward. Look at the interaction, whether it's on a sales floor, whether it's in a customer's home, whatever, saying, look, you've got a finite amount of time to talk about a particular solution, especially if they haven't considered it, right? And so how do I really quickly sort of, whether it's an elevator pitch or whatever, quickly explain why this thing is something they should really consider. And then if they want more details, we go from there. So let's look at it from the perspective of a salesperson and make their lives easier and teach them in a way they can easily turn right around and teach the consumer or the homeowner, and work
Yeah.
backwards from there. And, in doing so, now create content that actually is enjoyable to go through. That's not 30 minutes or 60 minutes of just, bullet points and just getting bludgeoned with
Yeah.
information that'll never ever make it into a conversation.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what we do. And as I mentioned with the virtual stuff, that just be provided a way that, look, we remember things and we're engaged more by visuals. All right. We remember things visually. And so when you put somebody inside of an immersive 3D environment, well, it captures their attention more effectively. And once there's interaction, if I'm clicking on something to learn things, well, now it becomes a lot more of an engaging and compelling experience. And that's how, virtual has kind of weaved its way into what we do, where particularly related to home automation, helping homeowners understand all the things that you can do with a smart home,
Mhm.
that it's not just, hey, Alexis, play my Katy Perry playlist. That
Right.
smart home can do a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more than just a Ring doorbell. And so, we can use this platform to help dealers really educate much more
Yeah.
deeply, their customer base as to what's possible.
Yeah, I love it, and kind of want to go back to something you said early on in there, and you have that experience too of kind of what's we hit on it a little bit with the PowerPoints, but like from more, thinking about the manufacturers you've worked with, those that have done well and those that haven't, and you've seen some great examples of, on both sides of what has worked well and what hasn't worked well from an education standpoint. So that's awesome experience to kind of be able to tap into, without naming names, what are some of those tactics that you've seen that have been really good, and some of those are, on the complete opposite end that just like fell flat?
Well, without naming names, I'll say
Yeah.
this for absolute fact that this company was started. The real impetus started with a particular manufacturer who was pretty notorious for their training sessions, where you would sit in a room for the better part of 2 hours, sometimes more, to see just a nonstop barrage of PowerPoint slides that were top to
Yeah.
bottom bullet points. Um, and I won't say who it is. Some will recognize the fact that this is a company that literally would throw money around the room to get people to pay attention. Okay, who can tell me what this is? And they would, oh, good answer. They'd throw the person $1, literally.
Wow.
Um, and giving you such deep end, information that again will never, unless you teach the customer about, electrical engineering, they're not going to understand it. And so it's
Right.
silly. So that's kind of the bad side. We just
Yeah.
give people, there's this, part of a big element of what we do is called instructional design. Okay. It's actually a science. It's not so much the information that's critical, it's how you convey it. So that people understand it, they remember it, and ideally they apply it when they're in the field. And so that's instructional design. How do you convey information so people actually tune in and remember it and so on? And a barrage of text top to bottom, but that's not the best way to do it. You want people to be curious. You want them to explore. So things like interactive elements, things like motion and movement, animation, narration. Now we do a lot of stuff with AI. So we're able to put, AI characters in there that are, simulate, that look completely real, and can walk people through a process, because it's been established,
Yeah.
scientifically, that if you talk to somebody, if the listener, the user is sitting there and it feels like someone is talking to them one-on-one, they pay a lot more attention.
Right.
So there's this and a whole bunch of other principles that go into how we create the content. It's not just, hey, this would be cool. It's more like, well, this has been proven to work, so let's use that.
Yeah. Well, it like simplifies it, right? It's simplified and guided too, to your point. Like you're not sort of given like just sort of set free in an environment, which in essence you kind of are in the virtual world, because you can go wherever you want. So it's unguided in that way, but at the same time it is guided because you have someone that is walking you through and explaining it and being very interactive with you. But like, it's just it it doesn't give the user just like complete control over their experience, when because in that sense, I'm getting a little wordy here, but like when you're given complete control as the user, you almost don't know what to do because you've never experienced the platform before. So you're kind of like at a loss of what to do. It's like,
Right.
it's a weird experience. So, but like you guys have figured it out in a way that makes it just fun. Your platform, the Smart Showroom 360 and what you've launched is cool. I kind of want to give you the chance to, you dove into it a little bit, but talk about the development of that platform and sort of how it came about and the idea behind it.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to. The impetus for this started frankly from a bit of frustration that I still have with the industry. Okay.
Hmm.
It's such an awesome, I mean, I love everything. The CI world is great. The innovations, the people I've met with, God, I've been doing this for such a long time, and I love meeting with the brands, the different vendors. I love talking to dealers. I've met hundreds of dealers over the years. I love seeing the world through their eyes. And so, but one of the really frustrating parts for me is like, why is it that we come up with such really cool and innovative ideas, and we're really congratulatory within the industry? Like, hey, here's this new thing that so and so did. And so, my question is, how come none of my neighbors know about it? That's always been a real issue with me. Like, okay, we're great at teaching each other, but the only way for the homeowners to know are through their local dealers, and hopefully that their local dealer is terrific at communicating the possibilities. But I don't want to make a long-winded story, but most folks remember, and they're still around, the company Bose. Um, when I was on the retail side, people would come in constantly asking for Bose. Why? Because Bose was great at, they actually had a campaign out there that spoke directly to consumers. Why would you want a $600 countertop radio? Well, here it is. And people had this impression that Bose is like the consummate, the highest end product you can get. And they were terrific at communicating that. Whether they were the highest end or not doesn't matter.
Right.
That's what people believed. And I think the industry could do a better job of communicating. Do you have any idea how many cool things you could do with any time, even a fundamental home automation system? Forget, I mean, the word geofencing, that's an example I always use. I mean, how many people actually know that when you're getting within a certain distance of your home knows you're coming there and realize, oh, Dave's almost home. Let me turn the lights on. Let me turn the music on. Let me adjust the climate control, et cetera, et cetera. And when I tell my neighbors and my friends about this, they're like, really? Oh, that must cost a fortune. Like, well, it doesn't have to. And so that's kind of where this all started.
Yeah.
Because I have a real, our company is grounded in education. Let's help make this stuff easy to understand. That's what we're
Mhm.
really good at. And so that's kind of where it began. So I thought once we got into virtual and realized, okay, here's what your typical virtual VR experience is like, where you got to wear headsets and it looks like a video game and so on.
Right.
If we can find a better way to do that, and help dealers in particular educate their consumers around what's possible, whether it's, hey, I don't know much about home automation, I want to learn it, let me go through this thing, or let me use it to help you better visualize what I've already been talking to you about, whether it's lighting or control or whatever. It's just a much more immersive and engaging environment. And as
Yeah.
you look around, that's where all look at entertainment now.
Right.
And entertainment is all moving towards these immersive experiences.
And
And
it's the cool thing too about it is like it's an experience that I think when I look at the platform, I'm kind of browsing around your website as you're talking here too, looking at some of the experiences you have available and sort of auto playing on your site, and it's it's something that someone that goes to it, they're familiar with. It's a familiar experience. It has sort of that, I don't want to call it this because it's not. It goes way beyond it, but like that Google Maps or Street View kind of feel to it, where you're able to look around in an environment and click on different things, and the info pops up. So it's a very you know innovative, but at the same time familiar experience to that customer or client that's going through it to learn more about what's possible in the smart home or in a truly connected home.
exactly. In fact, I think everyone has had some degree of experience going through a virtual walkthrough, like on a real estate site.
Yeah.
You have those virtual tours.
Yeah.
And that was part of the impetus of this as well. Like, well, this is cool. I can walk through a house and see what the whole house is like. However, there's some shortcomings there. It's After a while, it gets pretty redundant, right? It's not really exciting. After I've seen a couple of rooms, it's like, all right, it's the same thing over and over again. It's not, it's somewhat interactive, but not really. I'm only seeing the house at one specific point in time. And so I see these 3D things and like, I got thinking, this is years ago. What if I could walk through a house, but then I could change the lighting scenes, right? I could simulate clicking a remote control and watching the lights go down and a movie come on or the shades go up or down. Imagine I could actually learn, hey, this is what your home is like with a home automation system in it. And that's where it started. So now we're
Yeah.
taking the idea of a virtual tour and injecting, about a gallon and a half of steroids into it. And now, hey, wow, I can go through these rooms instead of just looking around. I can
Right.
click on all these information, icons, these little animated icons, and learn all about lighting or shades or climate or whatever it may be. Um, and
It's
that was the idea.
it's like the closest that you can get to being in a smart. Obviously, the best case scenario is someone's walking through a home and able to like hit these things and hit the buttons and switches and do it. Not every integrator out there has a show home, so it's a little
Right.
difficult to do that, right? But this is about as close as you can get in that virtual environment of, to your point, walking through and seeing a Lutron pad on the wall and being able to click on it and see the different things that you can do on the pad and change the scene, right? And interact with that smart home in a virtual setting and watch all those interactions, that automation sort of play out in front of you. Which is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's easy to read a cell sheet and see what something does, and or a PowerPoint as we've been kind of. I feel bad for Microsoft. We're really hitting on them on this episode, but it's not the same to read the bullets on a PowerPoint and try to understand what's happening as opposed to letting it play out in front of your face. And that's kind of what this is doing.
Yeah, we tell clients all the time that, look, folks, we live in a TikTok world. Okay, attention span. I mean, it's been actually scientifically proven. Our attention span is less than that of a goldfish now, literally. And so, if you create these passive experiences where I just look at a picture, I got to read a bunch of text, you're going to lose people really quickly. And so, what you want to do is you want to foster. This is sort of the holy grail when it comes to content, where it's intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Meaning, intrinsic, I'm exploring because I'm curious. I want to look around. It's my own, I'm curious to see more as opposed to I'm doing this because I'm being told that I have to, or there's some
Right.
kind of reward at the end or whatever. And so we're trying to really foster that. Hey, this is neat. Let me explore it. What's next? What's in that room? What's that button do? Et cetera, et cetera. And so truthfully, you mentioned the showroom thing. Like, yeah, some folks have a physical showroom, which is terrific. I mean, way back in our Tweeter days, one of the cool things we did was this whole customer journey concept, which most folks have heard about. We made it a point that when people would come in the store, we wanted our salespeople to say, "Hey, is it your first time in? Listen, they probably came in looking for a TV or something, but are you familiar with the different stuff that we do?" And if the customer was willing, like, "Hey, can I show you some cool stuff just so you have an idea of what's possible?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." And we take them around and show them these different vignettes and things to
Hmm.
talk about lighting or outdoor sound or whatever. The idea being is once you know something is possible, it may really change your outlook on what you want to do.
Right.
And that's the whole concept here that, okay, let's expose you to what's possible. That may dramatically impact ultimately what you decide to go forward with, where you were just thinking about, oh, I want to have music around the house, or I want to have a home theater system or something. Well, now that you see it, it makes it easier to start that conversation. And that's where
Yeah.
the dealers, if they're ideally they're good salespeople, they can take it from there. But let's help you start the conversation.
Right. So to that point about starting the conversation, this launched the platform, the Smart Showroom 360, a couple of weeks ago, I think, as we're sitting here. Where does it kind of stand as far as the integrators using it, or where are you guys at right now in terms of getting it onto their sites, or what's your plan, I guess, for moving forward with it and getting it out there?
Yeah, we launched it sort of officially at the ASEAN conference a while back. And what we've been doing since then is refining the sign up process and so on, making it easier. Because the good news is that the response has been terrific. This is something genuinely really new in the industry that no one has seen before. Which makes it a lot of fun. Typically every year, whether it's at the different tech shows or CDO or whatever, Yeah, we see a lot of cool stuff, but a good amount of it is kind of a new version of the same old thing, like new speakers or new
Yeah.
control system, whatever. This is something no one has ever seen before, and it's fun. And so our plan, the response we've gotten so far has been terrific. Just to kind of give you some fundamental details, it's a subscription-based platform where people would sign up for this. We get them set up we do a web call just like this, and we set them up where they have their own branded virtual showroom. We take their logo, their colors, they can choose fonts, they can choose their product categories, and so on. And when it's all said and done, about a half hour later, they've got a dedicated URL that now they can embed on their website, that they can send to clients, to builders, any way they want to leverage it as a sales tool. They are now able to do so, and they have their branded version. And so there's a couple levels of subscription. We've made a point to keep it as absolutely inexpensive as possible. Whereas this thing helps you close one deal, literally, you make one sale as a result, it
Yeah.
pays for the entire year. And so they get their own branded version. It comes complete right now. There's 4 complete homes of varying designs, everything from a production level home up to luxury home.
Mhm.
These homes have on average 5 to 8 individual living spaces in each home, including living rooms and kitchens, outdoor living spaces, offices, dedicated home theaters like high-end home theaters. And so in each space, there's a variety of little call outs, information call outs. So someone who's on the site can just click and learn about lighting, learn about acoustic treatments or theater seating or whatever it may be. Um, but in addition, if you are, let's say, putting this on your website, so let's say I'm a visitor to to the Rob Stott, Home Solutions website. Well, I heard about this home automation thing and I'm curious. Well, I can go through it and see a lot of cool stuff, but also we've included, because again, we're an education company and I'm passionate about helping people better understand this. We have a whole section called Learn About Smart Home, where we've got a whole series of explainer videos in there. Like, what is smart home? What can you do? What are automated events? The idea of a macro, most
Right.
folks have no clue.
Yeah.
But the concept, like I said, hey, every day at 7 a.m., for instance, or whenever you want, all these things happen automatically. Your shades go
Yep.
up, your lights come on, your TV, etc. Or if I'm driving home or while I'm away, these things happen. The lights change in different rooms to simulate me being home. All these different things that most folks are unaware of. We put stuff in there so people can understand, hey, here's things you probably didn't know that you could do.
Yeah.
So that's in there. Furthermore, we actually have, lighting is such a huge category now. We have a dedicated lighting gallery, which is awesome. So think about trying to explain circadian lighting to the average person.
Right.
Well, you see, it
Right.
mimics the sun and with a different lighting, color values. So,
Yeah.
how do people really picture what that is? So we have a lighting gallery that includes, for instance, the circadian element where you see a room, it's all 360, it's a living room and kitchen, and you see a timeline across the bottom. And as the time is going by, you're seeing the light changing the way it would in circadian lighting system. We have RGB, LED lighting illustrated, where all the things you can do there. And so there's a really cool lighting gallery that, unless you have an awesome showroom, or if you happen to be located near one of the experience centers that, some
Right.
dealers are fortunate to be, but most aren't. It's really hard to help customers visualize. Imagine your home with really cool lighting in it. So this is, a real nice benefit of the showroom as well. And so what we found to be interesting is that, again, like you said, we've just launched this recently.
Right.
And we've already had a bunch of folks who've signed up, and we've got a huge amount of interest. The thing I find most interesting is so far, the majority of folks who've subscribed already have a physical showroom. And yet
Interesting.
they see the
Yeah.
value of this, where like, hey, we can show so much stuff in our showroom, but this can help us better illustrate other options and
Yeah.
so on, which was really surprising, but it's great to see.
Well,
Um,
it's a great, tool to people can come to a showroom. I think something that's sort of sat above this entire conversation is just this is the new wave of marketing and education and the customer journey, as you've already mentioned, right? Is 21st century, they're starting online. I think if people don't know that, that's the case. Hey, this thing, the internet, people have been using it to shop for some time now. So having tools like this are a big benefit in many ways. To the integrators that are out there that I'm sure they've been hearing whether they're part of a group or just, stay in tune with the market. Your marketing efforts have to have a major digital component, and having this as a tool in the tool belt of something you can have on your website or be pushing out there via social media and talking about and giving your customers or potential clients a way in. This can almost be like your digital front door, if you will, or a window into your store, of what's
Exactly.
possible. So it, it's
And
a it makes sense. It's a tool that's incredible and makes just too much sense.
yeah, I appreciate that. In fact, that was sort of the idea. And what we're finding is really cool is that how different dealers are leveraging it.
Yeah.
Initially when we start out, we're thinking, yeah, people are going to put it on their website as sort of a means to sort of attract attention and as a lead generation system, which certainly it does serve as. But in other cases, it's a means with some of the dealers we've spoken to, it just helps them close easier. It could be kind of almost a
Hmm.
proposal tool. Hey, we talked about this room having X, Y, and Z. Let me use it as part of the proposal process. It is certainly, if nothing else, a major differentiator. So you want to separate yourself from your competition. They don't have a virtual showroom. Now I can actually show you what's possible where they have literally every single home integration website, which is, let me scroll through a bunch of pictures with text next to it. Really
Right.
beautiful pictures of living rooms and bedrooms and so on that don't really tell a story. Well, now you can tell a visual story. And so as a differentiator versus your competition, um,
It's powerful. It,
oh yeah, I mean, the one thing we haven't talked about that is important as well is the pricing in terms of helping customers understand what's this
mhm.
stuff costs. So we've gotten some really good feedback from many of the dealers around, hey, what can we do around putting in some kind of a cost element? Because we don't have that at the moment, but we're about to. For instance, we're working with HTA, who's got this really cool cost
Yep.
calculator on their website. So we're gonna, embed that as part of the tour. So for those, it could be a selectable item on your tour if you want to have that or not. But we've had a lot of feedback saying to kind of get past that sticker shock element,
Yeah.
putting
Let them.
content in there that helps consumers understand, well, hey, if you like this idea, here's some range of cost if you want to add that to
Yep.
your system. Um, and so again, our ultimate goal here is to have this sort of be the default go-to selling tool in the industry. Let me
Yeah.
help, whether it's consumers, whether it's working with builders. Um, one thing I should mention is that beyond what the showroom comes with right out of the box, which is a lot, is we have a whole bespoke capability as well. In other words, if you want to add any custom element, we have a dealer, who's out in Hawaii and is saying,
Right.
well, what if we want to have a house that looks like a house in Hawaii? Yeah. You want to have your own dedicated
Heard
space. You
that.
want to work with a
Yep.
builder. If you want to say, hey, imagine, Mr. Builder, if I could, we got a great relationship with you. Suppose we could create a little digital duplicate of some of the spaces in the homes that you build and put our stuff in there. How much would that benefit you as a builder for a marketing tool, but also help us now? Because when people say
Right.
this is really cool, what's this automation thing? Oh, we work with, Rob Stott Home Solutions,
Hmm.
call him and so on. Um, whatever type of feature element is all doable.
No, it's an incredible platform, and I love too I mean, it shows the experience that you have in the space and understanding that it can't be one size fits all, which I think, it's something that we see a little bit in the space where a solution may be introduced and it's, intended for everyone. And it becomes less flexible when you talk about the different, challenges that integrators from, to your point, California versus Philadelphia, or Hawaii versus Philadelphia, or
Right.
Atlanta versus Seattle. Like, it's very different parts of the country have different challenges, and even from within a market, brands that you might work with. So like being able to swap those things in and out, it's the flexibility of it, and the way you guys are already thinking about kind of what's next with it is it's a tip in the cap to kind of what you're doing and building, and I think the future of the tool itself. So it's pretty impressive, and
Yeah, you mentioned an important point there when you talk about brands. I
yeah.
should mention right now, this is an important thing. Right now, from a product standpoint, is completely brand agnostic.
Mhm.
Okay. Naturally, a lot of these integrators are going to say, well, I'm a Savant dealer or I'm a Crestron dealer. I want to see that stuff. And it's not that we are not trying to help there. Just again, at the initial
Sure.
outset, when you look at how many dealers are out there and how many brands and how many configurations, trying to figure every possible it would have been impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is, as time goes by, certainly, I think we've already seen interest from vendors and hey,
Mhm.
could we potentially get our stuff in there? And we have the ability where if somebody says, hey, can I show people visual options? Like, here's a great example. I've had a couple of folks say to me, when it comes to, let's say, in-wall speakers, well, there's a few options. You can do invisible, small aperture, you can do the
Right.
standard kind of grill, you can do a soundbar. It'd be neat if we could kind of show, click and show the differences. Like, that's a great point. So there's one of a whole litany of things that we have on the chalkboard that are coming over the next several months. Because again, we want to, whatever we can do to make this a more powerful selling tool, and do more lead capture type of thing. For instance, we are finalizing, really detailed analytics.
Yeah.
So imagine you send this out to your clients. Well, now you can see, hey, are they actually using it? Where are people when they go to the showroom? What are they looking at? How much time are they spending on it? What types of things are they curious about? So we're adding detailed analytics. We're adding the ability where, let's say somebody's on the showroom and they see something that's interesting to them. Ooh, I want to learn more about this. Imagine they clicked a button and instantly you got a text wherever you are saying, hey, Dave Chase is on your website right now, and he just said he wants to hear more about lighting. So I can respond right away and act upon that active sales lead right there.
Wow.
So this and a whole bunch of other stuff that, it's in the hopper right now. They're working on. It's really good right now, but it's going to get better and better and better as time
It's
goes by.
impressive, man. It's a really cool tool, and I like I said at the top, we'll be sure. I think for the best way for someone to understand it is to experience it themselves. I know we'll have tried to overlay some videos and things like that on here, but we'll have the link below to. We'll take your suggestion on what experience would be the best for someone to go visit, and we'll have that link underneath in the description here and on the website, and of course too, we've got the news coverage that we'll have linked below that you can go check out more on the platform and everything else. But incredible stuff, man. I'm looking forward to those updates and seeing what else you guys have coming down, because I mean, just the tour itself, taking a tour through a home is a really cool thing, and you guys have knocked it out of the park already. So interested to see and hear from dealers out there how they're using it, and the successes that they're having. So this is good stuff.
Yeah.
I appreciate the time.
Oh no, this has
Yeah.
been great. I appreciate the forum and the
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah, like I said, we've been really gratified with the response so far. I
Yep.
think that we're definitely onto something here. Something that the dealers never knew existed and didn't even know that they could they could use. And now here it
Right.
is. And as I said, the interest has been terrific. We're trying to make this as simple and straightforward and easy and cost effective as possible.
Yep.
So
It's good
so
stuff.
far so good.
Yeah, no, that's all. And something tells me we'll be catching up down the line as more of these features get rolled out, and you guys have more stuff coming and more advancements to the platform. So I feel like this is not the end of this story.
No,
So
not at all. But well, you made a good point earlier about different people at different areas. So
yeah,
one of the things I had to consider was that, look, a home on Cape Cod looks a heck of a lot different than a desert home in Arizona,
right,
right? So the first homes that we created try to span as much of the different look and feel and architecture and level of
yeah,
pricing and stuff. But we're already deep in the works of creating more and more houses and such. So
awesome.
case in point, we've talked to dealers who work with the ultra high end luxury.
Yep,
Okay, I'm not going to show them a house that costs only $1 million.
right,
I need to show them a house that looks like it costs 30 million.
yep,
Right. Conversely, if I work mostly with folks, in the Midwest and they're production homes, I'm not going to show them this ultra modern $30 million home overlooking the ocean. I need
right.
to show them something in the neighborhood.
Need to be
Right.
realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we try to span the dynamic range there, but again, adding more and more will make it a lot easier. So
awesome.
everybody will have something that can resonate with their audience.
Incredible stuff, man. Well, we look forward to catching up down the line, and I know as we sit here, CD is right around the corner, but look forward to seeing you there, and seeing what's new with Cogent 360. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Residential Tech Talks podcast, please subscribe to us on the platform you're listening on. Also, be sure to follow Residential Tech Today on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
residential technology, lighting specialist to residential technology.
Home automation, smart device, home or smart house.